Hey, good evening, guys. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's having a good Monday. Still waiting here for everybody to come in here. Hope everybody can hear me and see me okay. Anybody in here yet? Hey, how are you doing tonight? Can't hardly see the chat. Hey, Ken. Hey, Rachel. You can hear and see fine? Good. Good, 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 good. Waiting on here. Hey, Ashley. Welcome, everybody. As everybody knows, I'm still waiting for Shaun to step in here from ReWyld Outdoors. I don't know if anybody, I'm sure everybody here knows Shaun and knows his channel, ReWyld Outdoors. Um, while we're waiting on more people to get in here and waiting for Shaun to come in. Um, hey everybody. Hey, Randy. Red clock is me. Okay, wrong channel. Sounds like something I would do. But I was going to read. I don't know if you guys are aware what his channel's all about, but in his description on his channel, it says, "Our goal is to create an outdoor content that makes you want to get up and get out. We strive to entertain, inspire, and instruct. If we can entertain you with content that interests you, then maybe we can inspire you to get up and take the next step and get out on an adventure. If we can help motivate you, and maybe we can teach you a little something that will make your adventure more enjoyable." So it's one thing I've really learned to like about Shaun at ReWyld. He's very knowledgeable. Um, he has 400 videos, it looks like. Um, he's got a lot of knowledge. He puts uh, he puts a lot of knowledge in with um, humor. I would say not just humor, but his personality makes up for. There's he can make it interesting. All right, here I'm waiting. Here we go. Are you? I got you in here now. How are you, Shaun?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm trying to see why my earbuds aren't working.
I
Uh,
can I can hear you fine.
it's not feeding back.
Nope,
Okay.
nope.
Well, I'll get rid of these then.
Awesome. Well, I was just filling everybody in while you waiting on you to get in here about your channel, and I read beginning of your description on your channel and kind of let them know a little bit about you. I didn't want to say too much, until
Mhm.
you got in here. But I really appreciate you coming in tonight.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me.
Awesome. Yeah, I was just went over your description and told them you had about 400 videos. And one thing that I really have enjoyed about your channel is how you mix up your personality with your videos. I mean, I find them entertaining. Plus, uh, you know, they're very educational, and you can learn a lot of things. And the quick tips that you do, um,
Right.
it's a mix of so much knowledge, and I really like how your style is, that how you do your channel, your thumbnails. Um, a lot of upcoming YouTubers, newer YouTubers like myself, can learn from um, a channel like yours and
Yeah,
Tony's, and
that's how we all learn, man. That's how
yeah,
we all learn. I mean, I've learned from other people that I watched, and on down the line. That's one of the things that I actually enjoy talking to other YouTubers and people who are just getting started. And my channel, I've got 3,700 subscribers or something, so I'm just getting started too.
yeah,
Really, in the grand scheme of things. But I've been at it for over 5 years now. I've got 400 videos, and I'm at 3,700 subscribers. So I don't know that I'm doing everything just right.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I mean, it just depends. Everybody's one video away from, what I say, blowing up, or getting huge.
Yeah.
There's always seems like certain channels have one good video, and then from there on out, they just take off.
Well, the other thing that I think about too is, as far as my subscribers and stuff like that go, I prefer quality over quantity. So the subscribers that I do have are awesome. And I don't have a lot of what I would consider like turnover.
Yeah.
I don't have a ton of people that subscribe and then unsubscribe. So that's something you see a lot with these channels that do have one big video that blows up. And it's funny that, like for me, some of my biggest videos are ones that I just kind of threw together so I'd have something to put out this week. And then the ones that I worked so hard to try to, I want the music just right, all the scenes just right, everything, and then it doesn't. Nobody watches it.
Yep. Yeah, that's what Randy Ozark's Great Adventures. We were just talking about the other time we were out together. That's just the way it is. A video that you think is a total flop, the one that you just feel like you was unprepared and it was your worst video. Those end up being your best videos, and it's just I think people like to see you not being prepared sometimes and seeing you
Yeah,
being human and not editing out those mistakes or whatever you want to call it.
right. That's something that your viewers will find about my channel is if it goes wrong, you're gonna see it. And the reason for that for me is, when people watch our channels, they, YouTube and stuff like that, it can be so polished. And so some of the things that people watch, these huge channels, and the ones that actually do edit out the stuff that goes wrong, it can be discouraging for someone who goes out their first time and it doesn't go right. Something happens for whatever reason, they have to pack up and go home. It can be very discouraging. And like I said, my channel's not huge, but people do watch my videos and learn things from them. And one of the things that I want them to learn is sometimes it just doesn't go right. That's okay. And I kind of think about that Les Stroud lemons thing that he talked about. You got three lemons, and if, you know, let's say the weather turns bad on you and you're not prepared for that, that's a lemon.
Yep.
If, something happens and you've forgotten a piece of gear or something, that's a lemon. You get three lemons, pull it, get out of there. Things are just going wrong. If you're not having a good time, don't be afraid to just say, you know, we'll do better next time. I'll be more prepared next time. And it doesn't always go right, but that doesn't mean it won't always go right. You know. I hope that makes
Absolutely.
sense.
Yeah, that makes plenty of sense. Yeah, I was wanting to say hi to see Minnesota Mike's in here. Ozarks Woodsman, how you doing, guys? Herbert T. Who haven't I said hi to? TD Knives. Um, said hi to Ken, Ashley, Rachel. All right. Before I get into kind of some of the questions, like I said, it's just kind of laid back, but I do kind of like to have a little bit of structure on my lives just to keep it flowing.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think I know you through your videos well enough. I think that we could conversate pretty easily.
Hmm.
That's not a big thing to me. But as you know, the first question I was going to ask is explain how you got interested in the outdoors.
So I don't think I had much of a choice. Growing up, my dad was a scoutmaster, so we camped every weekend almost growing up because if we weren't camping, somebody else was camping, another, group was camping. So I was the scoutmaster's helper essentially. So I did a lot of camping growing up, and when the other kids were running around in the forest throwing sticks at each other, I was driving tent pegs and setting up the giant army tent that we all camped in and everything. So my dad had a army tent from, it had to be the 60s or early 70s. The thing was enormous. It weighed a ton. And so that's what we would use. And I learned real early to use a 2-pound sledge, drive tent stakes and things like that. So that's kind of how I got into it, but I enjoyed it. I've always loved it. And dad would we would go fishing and hunting and stuff like that too growing up. But that's really, I got into it at a really young age. So I feel like I've always been into it.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I am. I grew up and I was in scouts and Royal Rangers, and
Hmm.
the difference is my family wasn't really into the outdoors. I had to get into it myself, and I was drawn to it at a very young age. I grew up on a dairy farm. We had a creek. I had the perfect Tom Sawyer childhood. We had a campsite down on the creek, and
Nice.
mom and dad would let me camp out on school nights if I had my homework done, whatever. It was great. So I was kind of like you. I can tell when I watch somebody's videos if they've been in the outdoors all their life. They're so comfortable. You can tell they're just so comfortable in everything they do outside. And um,
Right.
even when at the beginning of their channels and the beginning of their videos, you can kind of tell when people are new to it and people have been doing it all their lives. You can
Yeah,
really tell.
absolutely. There's
Okay, well,
that that ease of doing stuff, that you can definitely tell when somebody's struggling with something, or they're trying to do something that they just watched and learned somebody else, or learned from somebody else. And then there's the ones that you can tell just kind of, basically, it's that repetitive motion. They've done it so much that they just know what's going on. So um yeah, I just love doing it, man. I love getting out there and spending time. I actually just got back in earlier today. I went and did a solo hiking camp last night, and it was a lot of fun. I had a great time.
it's awesome. Yeah, Adventures with Ken said, "Dude, that's awesome. I've never had anything like that growing up. We moved every 3 to 4 years being military brats and never had spots to call ours." Yeah, Ken, I totally understand that. I had a lot of friends that way, and they would come over a lot or wanna be friends with me a lot, not just for that reason, but, the ones that were interested in the outdoors, they knew I had that. Um, so I was definitely blessed to have that.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily have a campsite, on the property growing up, but we had a sinkhole that was next to our property that all the kids would, the neighborhood kids would go down in, and we, built forts down in there, and did all sorts of stuff that we probably shouldn't have been doing back then, dangerous stuff. But
Mhm.
back in those days, nobody cared. As long as you came home safe, it didn't, nobody was worried about it. But
Yep.
yeah, it was neat to grow up with that. That's one of the things that you don't see nowadays. Kids,
No.
kids aren't doing that. They're growing up behind the screen.
Yep. Exactly, or on video games, on watching YouTube
That's
videos and
right.
trying to live through YouTubers and stuff vicariously, and,
Right.
it's not the same, and there's no people don't know how to it's so socially awkward, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. It's, for a lot of kids nowadays. It's funny, Herbert said, "Dangerous stuff, rub some dirt on it." That's what
Absolutely.
yeah,
That's what we did.
yep, exactly, that's, he's been there too. I mean, Herbert and a lot of these guys that will come in here, they've been doing it for a long time too, and it's just natural for us. But I guess it's easy for me to get off topic here. I'll get start the second question here. Uh, we got, let's see here. What got you wanting to start a YouTube channel?
So that actually ties into what we were just talking about. So, um, I think it was around Christmas time one year, or like 5 or 6 years ago. I don't remember exactly, but I left and had to go to town for something, and there was no new bikes in the neighborhood. And that just boggled my mind. Like when I was growing up, that's what we did for Christmas. You wanted a new bike. And so I got to thinking about it, and I called my niece, who had two really small kids at the time. And I asked her what the kids were doing. And those kids were actually watching YouTube videos of other kids opening their presents. And I was like, man, things are really going the wrong direction. But if those kids are on YouTube, maybe we can make some videos that will make them want to get back outside. And in a way, that's kind of worked. What has really happened, what I've noticed has happened, is I've gotten the parents more involved in going back out, and you know, in that instance, they're taking the kids with them and getting the kids involved. So um, it hasn't worked exactly like I had planned, but it's still working in a roundabout way. So as long as we're getting them out there, that's what I care about.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that kind of is one of the questions later, kind of towards the end of the evening that I had kind of towards that, but I guess we'll get to that later. But that's another thing that I really like about your channel and what you're about is, reaching the kids and trying to encourage the
Yeah.
parents. I mean, you got to encourage the parents just as much as the kids. I would agree with that too, because the parents are so guilty, I think, of not wanting to be out in the outdoors as well.
Well, I'm guilty of that too. I've got four daughters, and my oldest daughter, when she was little, we went fishing, we went hunting, camping, all that stuff. But throughout the years, you have more kids, you don't have as much time to do that stuff, and so I myself, I didn't get my younger daughters involved. And I guess it was about a month ago, my youngest Corey, who actually just turned 18 yesterday morning. Um, I asked her, "Don't you want to go camping with Daddy?" And she's like, "That is my worst nightmare." So I didn't
Uh,
get them involved exactly either. So
yeah, I have 4 children and, none of them my youngest daughter was the only one really interested in outdoors. I couldn't get any of them outside, and, it was totally different for me because I love doing that, and I'm like you,
yeah,
that kind of kept me at home more than I wanted to be because they didn't want to go out, so
right.
it was very difficult.
Yeah, when I was a kid, man, you could get on that bicycle and you could be
Mhm.
gone all day and nobody cares as long as you were back home before dark.
Yep,
We'd ride to the other town. I mean, it was nobody cared. But now you can't let your kids get out of the yard without panicking.
that's right. Yeah,
It's
because
a it's a whole different world we're living in now.
oh, for sure, and rightfully so. I mean, I understand the days and times now, but yeah, I mean, I my parents even let me ride my bike to school, and it was 8 miles to my school and back. So, I mean, there's hardly any parents that let you do that anymore,
That's right.
you know, which you wouldn't want to. Uh, all right, who else is in here? Let's see. DAV Expeditions, how are you doing tonight? I didn't get to say hi to you. Nomadic Camping, hey, buddy. Nice to see you in here. Thanks for coming in tonight and spending some time with us here. I think I said hi to Woodsman and Randy, Daniel. Hi. I guess the third question is where did you grow up?
So I am still in my hometown. I am 46 or 47, not really sure. And I have been literally in, well, not exactly my hometown. I grew up about 15 miles away from where I live now. But yeah, Gainesville, Florida, the Alachua County area is where I grew up, North Central Florida, and I've been here my whole life. But we over the last few years, me and my wife Sarah, we are gravitating more towards wanting to be in the mountains now. So who knows where we'll be in the next few years, but yeah, I've been here my whole life.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've been in the Midwest pretty much my whole life. I did live 4 years in Southern California when I went through my electrical apprenticeship, and then, I lived in Phoenix, Arizona for a year, before my parents retired. I went out there and but yeah, I've been pretty much here the rest of the time around not too far, within 35, 40 miles of where I grew up, so,
Right.
um, but,
Yeah, I think for me, the older I get, the the less I enjoy this Florida heat. I always hear people say, "Oh, it's so nice in Florida. It's so warm," and it's not warm. It's hot and humid. So it's I'm a little bit over it now.
yeah. Yeah, people like, they'll say that about Phoenix too. Oh, it's a dry heat. Well, it is, but with the dry heat, you don't realize how hot it is. So you kind of go overboard because you don't sweat
Yeah.
as much because of that. So, but it is hot. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it'll get so sometimes in the summertime the humidity will get so high here. It's like you're trying to breathe underwater. You know, the air is just heavy. So I'm about over it.
It's awesome. Well, I guess I'll move to the next question. It's what's your favorite type of camping?
Oh, that's a tough one. So, you know, if you watch the channel, you see that I do all sorts of stuff.
Yep.
And but I think my favorite kind of camping, honestly, um probably kayak camping. I like the hammock camp. Hammock camping is my preferred way to sleep. But I like the kayak camping because I love anything to do with being on the river or on a lake or something like that. That's kind of my place to be at peace. And so kayak camping just to paddle down the river and find a spot on the bank to set up for the night. To me, that's pretty much the cream of the crop for me, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I'm with you on the hammock camping. I mean, I'm like you. I do a little bit of everything. I've got tents, and everybody thinks. I mean, I prefer to sleep in a hammock like you. I mean, I sleep wonderfully in my hammock, but I mean, I like tent camping and car camping and
Yeah,
all
I
camping.
tent camped last night.
Yep. Oh, is that where you was at last night?
Yeah, I used a one wind bivy tent last night is what I used.
Awesome. Yeah, I've seen that on several channels, and I've been really liking that. So I
It's
knew.
it's pretty cool, man. It's kind of it's almost like the One Tiger's Backwoods Bungalow, but smaller.
Mhm.
Um, and it's got pretty decent airflow in it, but it's definitely on the smaller side. But the nice thing is it packs down so small. Matter of fact, I got it right here. That's the little tent, and it doesn't weigh anything.
Yeah.
So pretty sweet.
That's what attracted me to it, is how compact it is, and I first seen it on,
Yeah.
Total Outdoor Gear Review. Luke did a review on it, and, that's the first place I seen it, and I really liked it, so, um
Yeah, I made a video comparing the backwoods bungalow and that one, so that kind of gives you an idea. You can actually see the difference in size of them.
yeah. I'll have to check that one out. I don't think I seen your comparison video, but I did see the one that you did your first camp out with your friends, with that, bivvy, and,
Yep.
you was mentioning that you wouldn't mind doing some modifications on it, so
Yeah.
awesome. Well, do we got any more questions from doesn't look like we have any questions. I try to keep up with the comments, but when I'm doing a structured one, I try to keep
Mm.
on topic a little bit. But appreciate everybody giving us a thumbs up. Thanks, Randy, for that. Um, let's see here. Next question. What has been your favorite camping trip that you've ever done?
That one for me is pretty easy. So, um, my father was sick for a lot of years with cancer and stuff, but he still loved to get out and go camping and things like that. And as he was getting, we knew he was getting toward the end of his life, and he wanted to go camping one last time. And he couldn't hardly walk. He was using a walker, and Pop had COPD and stuff, so he couldn't sleep laying down. He slept in a recliner. And my brother Lester lives in Moultrie, Georgia, and he's got a beautiful little place on New River up there that we could go down to and camp right on the water. And so what we ended up doing was we bought sheets of plywood and made a path down to the campsite. Got this giant, must have been a 12-person tent, and put it up right by the water. And my dad, or my brother Lester, got my dad a recliner off of Marketplace or something. And so he was set up by the river in a recliner, and that's how he camped. And that it was ended up being his last camp. And the cool thing is, I've got some. I made a video of that, but I've got video of him talking about camping when he was a boy in that video, and I love going back to that video because I can see him and hear him and stuff like that, and that's kind of that's something that you miss, when they're gone, and it's nice to be able to go revisit that. But just thinking about, all the work that we put into it, but he had a blast. And even right up to the last, he told everybody that we got him out there, and he'd tell people about it. And I mean, that joker had his recliner. We moved his recliner out to the edge of the river so he could sit there and fish from his recliner. And me and my brother spent the whole time down there taking fish off the lines and getting him everything. He had it made down there that weekend. It was fun. But yeah, I that's my favorite memory, my favorite camp out of all time.
That's amazing. I mean, that's one good thing about YouTube, like you said. I mean, it's kind of how I got really wanting to do is this documenting my trips and just
Yeah.
bringing people along. But you get those type of memories into it, and it's going to be there forever, and everybody gets to enjoy that along with
Yep.
you, and it shows that personal touch of your channel and your personality in your life, which is really cool, I think.
Yeah. It's nice to just for us to just be able to go back every now and relive a few of those, times that we've had and those memories. So it's cool for me. It's kind of like when you think about it, it's like our journal, or it's like a digital journal essentially. You can go back and relive those moments. So it's cool. I enjoy doing it. I love it.
Yep, awesome. I got a good question here from Herbert. What advice would you have for over 40 years old that wants to get into your niche?
That wants to get into like making videos or just going out camping.
Going out camping, I'm assuming that's what he means, and getting out in the outdoors.
So, um, for one thing, I would say, start out start out light. Don't try to go crazy to start out with. You always hear people say, buy once, cry once. And that's something that always, you always hear people say that. But I've always been budget minded, and not everybody can go out and can afford to spend $600-700 on one of these tents. Don't do that. Go like David said, go to Outdoor Gear Review, find one of the tents that he's recommending that are waterproof, and because not all tents are waterproof.
Yeah.
Go on there, find one that's waterproof, that's within your budget. Buy some, you know, you can buy mid-grade gear because eventually you are going to want to move up, but you don't, what if you don't like it? It doesn't make sense to go buy that stuff super expensive like that. But and the mid-grade gear too, unless you're going backpacking, it's going to be fine for you for a few years. And so I would say, just get some decent smaller gear. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. And find a campground for your first trip that you can, get some privacy, but find a campground that's going to have your, uh, like the portable, or not portable, the potable water, and or even non-potable water, and find a campground that has a bathroom to start with,
Yep.
because you're not really that first trip out. You want to make it be a good trip,
Yep.
and having a few creature comforts the first time is going to make you more likely to go out the next time. And the more you get into it, the more adventurous you can get, but when I took my wife camping for the first time, she said, I'm not going to camp unless it's in a camper and
Yeah.
our RV. And the first time we went camping, it was colder, so we slept better at night. And we went somewhere that had the bathrooms so she could go use the bathroom. But now we can just go set up anywhere, and she's good now. So that's what I would say to start with. The other thing I would say too is you can do like, if you are Facebook savvy, go on there, find some camping groups on Facebook, and a lot of times they'll put out a thing saying, "Hey, we're going to be camping at so and so," and go join some groups like that. You might make some new friends, you may not, but you might make some new friends, and a lot of times there's going to be people there that can kind of help you if you don't quite understand something.
Yep.
And you also have a good chance of seeing different gear, things that you might want to try, um, and then different ways of doing things. That's how I would say, if you're just wanting to get into it, that's how I would suggest doing it. But don't try to go full, full bore, crazy, roughing it. Don't hike 10 miles on your first trip, kind of thing.
That's real good advice. I was going to say that, see here, there's a couple of people, don't be afraid to use gear either. And he loves Army surplus gear, which that's good,
Yeah,
good,
absolutely.
good advice. I mean, thrift stores, Goodwill, any of that, you can find decent stuff. I've gotten backpacks and stuff from, when I couldn't afford better gear. I've gotten stuff
That's
that,
right.
so yeah, I agree with everything you said. That's really good advice. So, let's see here. Randy had a good question. Have you ever found yourself into your channel that real life suffered a little?
Um, I try not to do that. I try to be very cognizant of my wife and making sure that I'm not um going overboard with my channel. I do have a tendency to get tunnel vision, and what I'm doing is the only thing I want to think about at that time. I've played in bands and stuff over the years, and that's something that I hyper focus on stuff. And so I know that I do that, so I try to be very careful not to do that, because my wife is great. She is so supportive of me, and anything I want to do, she's always like, the first thing she says is, "What do you need? How can I help you?" And so I don't want to do anything that's going to be taking advantage of that. So I do try to be careful not to do that now. on the other side of that, monetarily, I have made some purchases that maybe I shouldn't have made. Even at the time, I shouldn't have made
Yeah,
them. But that's the other side of that whole gear thing, you know. The more you get into it, you know, the more gear you got, the more gear you want. And that's
yep,
I can honestly say that I have probably bought stuff that I probably shouldn't have bought at that time. But
yeah.
that I'd say that's probably about the worst I've done there.
Yeah, it's important, you know, if you are married to have a supportive wife that does encourage you, and I'm the same way. My wife is amazing, and she's always very supportive and encourages me to get out there and not just as a wife's perspective, you know, I always like, was it really okay? You know, I always treasure her advice and input because you know, she knows me better than anybody, so um, you know, I wanted to, you know, like I told Randy and the guys that we met from here, you know, I knew when I met you guys that you were going to be who you were that I'm watching on video, and I knew that wholeheartedly. The people I know, if I meet you and Tony and all the guys, I know you're truly genuine, you know, and
Yeah,
um, on TV, you don't know that. That's one
yeah,
good thing about YouTube. You do get to know people's personalities. So,
yeah.
mm,
With me,
and
what you see is what you get.
yeah, yep, me too. All
Good
right.
or bad, whether you
Yep.
like it or not, it's what you got. So
David Stewart says, I absolutely love thrifting for my gear. It's all about the hunt for me. Yep.
yeah,
That's
me and
really
my
good.
wife were actually we were looking at some thrift stores the other day, and that's what we were kind of doing a little challenge as we went through there to find like what we could use for you know, because like when I'm packing up, I'm thinking about shelter, water, fire, food. And so we kind of went through the thrift store and we were looking like, oh, you know, this would be, you could make a shelter out of this, or you could do like there were sleeping bags
Yep.
at the thrift store. So um now that's whether or not you want to sleep in a sleeping bag from a thrift store. That's pretty close knit to whoever used to own it. But um yeah, it's neat to go through there though.
Yep.
The other thing you should be looking for at thrift stores, packs, like you said, backpacks. People will take stuff to thrift stores and you can find some nice packs there, and look in their glass cases for knives,
Yep.
folding knives, camping knives, all that stuff. They'll have some nice knives in there and they're not much money.
Yep. That's good because they don't know what they are. You know, they don't know what
Yep.
they have for a lot of times. But yeah, that's great.
Yeah. You know, half the time they've got some, you know, high school kid or just out of high school kid that's pricing things, and they just see, oh, it's a backpack, it's $12, and it might be a hidden woodsman pack or who knows what it is, you know.
Yep.
And so yeah, that's some of the things you should be looking for in there.
Yep. Awesome. Looks like Adventures with Ken has a good question here. How do you find locations to go camping or take trips to?
Well, for me, I kind of like I kind of think about what I want out of this trip. Am I looking for water? Am I looking for a place that I can hike in?
Yep.
I use that to kind of, or you know, kayaking in whatever I'm doing. So I kind of narrow it down there, and then I start googling stuff, and I Google map stuff. I Google Earth things sometimes. Um, like a lot of times, if I'm trying to disperse camp in a new spot in a national forest, I will Google Earth it, and then I will,
Mhm.
you know, zoom in and try to find water. And I find water, and then I'll try to figure out, okay, what's the closest road or closest way to get to that.
Yep.
And so I'll do, you know, that way when I'm going for like a dispersed camp in the middle of nowhere. But for me, I don't like to be in campgrounds so much, so I don't do a lot of the campground stuff.
Yep.
But Google, man, a lot of people, uh, I've had that question a lot, like, how do you find it? Google, you
Yep.
know. But like I said, it depends on what you're looking for.
Exactly.
Google, whatever you're looking for, disperse camping near such and such, or
Yep.
that sort of thing. That's how I do it. But you should always have a plan B
Yep.
too, because my wife and I had a whole trip planned, and it didn't have a on the website. It was a national park. It didn't have on the website that you could reserve a campsite. You
Oh.
paid when you got there. And so we got there, and early Friday morning we shot down there and everything, and it was about 2 hours away. We got down there, and the whole place was closed down.
Oh no.
And nowhere online did it say that it was closed. It said it was open, in fact. And so we just kind of had to scramble for a plan B, but you should always kind of think about having a plan B just in case things don't work.
Absolutely. Yep. I 100% agree. That's kind of what I do to search out places. Is I use Google Earth and Maps a lot.
Yep.
That's real important, and having Plan B is definitely really important. Uh, really good tips. Um, Herbert said to go with what we was talking about the thrift stores a while ago. It says one time camper finds on Facebook Marketplace, which he found a really good Dutch oven and a bunch of stuff to go with that. So that's really true too. I found a lot of good stuff on Marketplace.
Yeah, this little pack right here. This is my LL Bean Continental
Yep.
rucksack. I got this pack on Marketplace for like $20,
Wow.
and it was pretty much brand new when I got it. And I saw it on Marketplace, and you know how Marketplace is.
Yep.
You'll message somebody and they'll never message you back or
Yep.
whatever. And I messaged this person, and they were like, "Yeah, it's still available." I'm like, I'll come get it right now.
Right now.
And so I went and picked it up. But I use that thing a lot, and it's been perfect. I mean, it's kind of small, but those Continental rucksack I can't talk. Continental rucksacks are actually pretty light too.
Yep.
So
Hmm.
it's fun for like a overnighter or a couple of
Yep.
nights. It's a nice little pack. $20.
Yeah. Man, that is great. It's funny. Randy from Ozark's Great Adventure says Plan B hotel.
That's hey,
Uh,
if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. Sometimes.
yep. Yep. Adventures with Ken says I typically just hit a national forest or one of the Facebook groups for a spot to go. I'm fortunate that one have 4 national forests within 5 hours of me. Yeah, that's really good. It's kind of the way we are too. We have Mark Twain National Forest all around us here.
Yeah, around. So it's funny. Florida has quite a bit of camping area around us. I just recently did a video where I actually, I called it my random road trip, a random road tripping adventure or something like that. I can't remember what I called it, but I actually made a little spinner that said left, right, or straight, and I just spin it, and that's how I did the whole trip.
Yep.
And I ended up in South Georgia, and I
Yep.
was very surprised at how little area that they have to disperse camp. Like the Okefenokee Swamp up there is huge, and you can't disperse camp there. It's blows my mind.
Wow. That's crazy. People, states that doesn't want you to get out and enjoy the outdoors. It's a shame,
That's
people
right.
can't get out. Oh, that's Herbert says Plan C, stealth camp. Yeah, that's a good idea too.
Yeah, I actually have just starting to get into the stealth camping thing, so I'm not really comfortable just picking a spot and going
Yep.
for it yet. But maybe one day I'll get a little more comfortable with that.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I am. I did my last one last week, and I'm kind of that way. But I'm not going to go. I'm not going to push the line that some other. I'm not saying it's wrong as long as you follow the laws and everything. But I'm not going to go super. Obviously, I'm not going to go where it's posted that no trespassing.
Yeah,
I'm not going to. I'm not going to overstep my boundaries by no means. But I'm going to hit some stealth camping. I'm going to do some more and. Uh, I've got a few things in the works, I think, and here soon. But um, it's just the thrill of it, of camping where you're not
right,
supposed to. But I'm not gonna, you know, do some of the high stakes that gonna get me in trouble. So
right. That's something that I struggle with, is because I do try to um be cognizant that there are children and stuff that watch my videos. So I don't want to set an example that's going to be bad for those kids.
yeah,
And I know that there, like you said, there are some people that will go out there and do some higher stake stuff and maybe camp somewhere that might be private property. I don't know. And I absolutely am not going to go private property camp on somebody else's stuff. Now, in my opinion, if it's a, you know, city park or something that we're paying taxes on already, I should be able to camp there anyhow.
yep. I totally agree with that because I there's a Missouri conservation land that I did. I technically could have labeled as a stealth camp, but they have three designated camping areas that you're allowed to camp in, and you're not allowed to camp anywhere else. But they're not unless you have GPS, you can't really find them. They're clearings, but they're not marked where to camp. So and I didn't like the areas that they marked the camp. So I was like, well, I'm hammock camping and I leave no trace anyway. So I went a little off trail and
Oh
away
yeah,
from where I was supposed to camp. So, but like you say, I paid taxes for that. You should be able to camp anywhere.
right.
So I guess let's see here. Hey, two guys in the Ozarks, how are you doing tonight? Thanks for coming in. Um, I guess I'll start with another question for you. Kind of goes with the one before that. Where's a place that you've always wanted to do a camping trip and you haven't?
Um, that's a tough one for me because there's a lot of different places that I would like to go, but like one of the places I've always wanted to go, I guess, is well, kind of most recently is I want to camp out on Cumberland Island, out off of the coast of Georgia.
Hmm.
I just read a book about that, and it just sounds awesome out there. So that's kind of my newest, like that's the thing that I'm kind of fixated on now, that I kind of want to make that happen. Um, I don't know that I have anywhere particular that stands out that okay, I've always wanted to go there. My big one, I guess, would be Alaska. I
Yep.
don't have a particular area, but I would love to go to Alaska and camp for a few days, a few weeks, whatever, and
Yep.
make a bunch of videos. I just think it would be awesome.
Yeah, that's what Adventures with Ken would say, and that's probably my top place in the U.S. anyways. Not obviously not the lower 48, but there's a lot of places in the lower 48, but Alaska's my definite bucket list for sure.
Now, if
I,
I
I
was going overseas, maybe Scotland, I would
yes,
love to do some of the stuff over there.
absolutely. Scotland is definitely something that's on my list too. Or there's a lot of good places overseas that um, look really nice to actually do. Let's see here. Herbert's got a good question here. Hard for me to see on that little screen. What's your most prized piece of equipment and what makes camping enjoyable?
My most prized piece of equipment, I would say, is right here. Give me just a second, I'll grab it.
Okay. Yeah, Ken, Montana, that's a really good one too. There's a lot of good places in Montana. South Dakota, there's a lot of places that I wanna go as well.
So,
Yeah.
most prized piece of equipment. My buddy makes knives, and I've been wanting one of these knives for a long time. And he made me one for our last wild camp and presented it to me there. And look at the size of this Bowie.
Oh, wow.
This thing is that's my most prized piece
Wow.
of equipment right there. The only thing I have cut with this thing is cheese. I cut I cut the cheese. But this thing is beautiful. I'd say that's my most prized piece of equipment. My most used piece of equipment would be this one, and this is another knife that he made. It's Pine Ridge Forge and Tool. And he made this one for me. And you look at that blade,
Wow.
that thing gets used. That
Yep.
thing, I have this. I've used this knife more than any other thing that I've used, and the thing is just sweet. I mean, that's
Yep.
my most used piece of equipment. This is definitely most prized piece of equipment. But the other part was what makes uh camping enjoyable.
Yeah.
I think that's what he said.
Yep.
Um, for me, it's just the the nature. Um, I love early mornings at camp. I love to be drinking my coffee and watching the fog through the trees and like on the river, watching the fog come down the river. Um, to me, that's it's just that the kind of release that you get. You know, you can kind of
Yep.
decompress, and that's some things that I'll if I don't get camping for a few weeks, I get grumpy, and my wife will tell you she's like, "You need to go to the woods. You need a camp out." So I think that's what makes it enjoyable for me is just the getting out there and decompressing and just being in the nature.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. Getting rid of that stress. That's definitely my best way to deal with stress is go camping for
Absolutely.
sure. Yeah. Awesome. It looks like Ken Adventures with Ken has a good question. Do you have a creature comfort item you bring on every trip?
Um, that I bring on every trip. I don't think that I have anything particular that I bring on every trip. Um, trying to think. I don't really think so. As far as like every trip, I do like to have something to do though.
Yeah.
Whether it's I like to carve, and
Yep.
so a lot of times I'll bring my little carving kit with me, and I'll bring that with me, and it just kind of gives me something to do. So in the downtime, you don't really, you're not just sitting there twiddling your thumbs or playing on your phone. Um, and but as far as like creature comforts, um, I can't think of anything. I don't really use the same things over and over again. That's like a lot of people will ask me, "What's your EDC?"
Yeah.
I don't really have a big EDC. Like this is the thing these are the things I carry in my pocket every day. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I like to switch things up and try new things.
Yep. I would say so too. Yep. That's a good answer. Um, let's see here. Ozark's Great Adventures, Randy. He says, I may have missed this, but how did you come up with your channel name? That is a good question, Randy.
Yeah. So I was when we were I was going through different names for the channel, and I couldn't find anything that really I didn't want it to be bushcraft or camping or something like that. I wanted it to be Outdoors kind of encompassed the whole thing because I didn't want to be pigeonholed into, okay, you can only do bushcraft. And the that's what YouTube wants you to do. They want you to be, okay, if you bushcraft, just do bushcraft. That's what a lot of, people don't understand. They want you to niche down, but how boring would that be if all you could ever do is, okay, I fish or I hike. And it would get so boring. So I didn't want to do that. And then just like I was talking about earlier, um, through my kids growing up, I kind of got out of the whole camping and things because we were just busy with kids. And when I decided that I wanted to start this channel, I kind of, the other side of that was I kind of wanted to start getting back out and doing those things. And it's a little hokey, but I kind of wanted to rewild. I
Hmm.
wanted to get back out there essentially. So I'm rewilding. And the only reason I use the Y is because somebody else was using the I. So there is another one out there that's called ReWyld something else, but it's ReWyld. So I use
Yeah,
the Y.
that's great. Yeah, I was wondering that too. That was a really good question. I
Yeah.
thought about putting that in the questions I had for you, but I figured I was hoping somebody would ask that, or I was going to throw it in there. But that's a really good question, Randy. Thank you.
Yep.
Um, Adventures with Ken says, I think I'm the only outdoor YouTuber who does not drink coffee. LOL. I have a Rippa energy drink in the mornings of my videos. Yep. Yep.
I drank a lot of coffee.
Nomadic said his camping spot he would like to do is the bottom of the Grand Canyon. That is a great spot I would love to go.
Yeah, that would be cool.
The Ken said his creature comfort is I have an actual pillow on my trips.
You know what? I bet that is my creature comfort is my coffee.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That is the thing that is my creature comfort. I don't care if I don't bring food at all. There will be coffee.
Yep. Yep. He said on his last this hammock hang he went with Tony and all those guys. 10 people asked him if he offered him coffee. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of outdoorsmen like coffee.
Yep, I'm sorry I missed that trip. I wanted to go, but I just got so many other things going on.
Yeah. Let's see here. Endless nomadic camping with endless weekends asked, do the gators bother you in Florida?
No, it's
Yeah.
it's not like everybody thinks it is. Everybody, thinks, oh, Florida, the gators are trying to eat you and stuff, which it they can obviously,
Yeah.
but gators are a lot like bears. I think
Yep.
typically when they see you, they're trying to get away from you. Unless you get up on a nest, for the most part, they're not coming after you. Now you got to be careful, just like anything else. You don't want to be in the water at sunup or sundown because that's when they're going to be feeding, and they're coming. If you're splashing around in the water, they may come over there.
Yep.
But in general, they're they're not like the saltwater crocodiles that you see over in Australia or something that are, you know, actively hunting people. The
Yeah.
gators, for the most part, they're not doing that.
Yep. Herbert said if they do bother you, what do he say? If they do bother you, you might not be there to tell about it.
Maybe that's why you don't hear many people talking about the ones that bother you because they
Yep.
just got ate up.
Oh, that's great. I guess I need to get back on topic here. Let's see here. What's the next one? If you could do a YouTube collaboration with any YouTuber, who would it be?
Oh, that's kind of a toss up for me too. So I do want to kind of get into the stealth camping some. And so if I could do a stealth camping collab, it would probably be Steve Wallace.
Yep.
I love camping with Steve.
Yep. Me
Just the
too.
fact that that guy will dig a Quincy hut out of the snow and then bring a big screen TV and a rice cooker in there. Just that humor, just I know he would be a trip to hang out with. But
Absolutely.
for somebody like that goes in the backcountry and camps, I really love Scotty's Gone Walkabout.
Yep.
He camps in Australia and some of
Yep.
the most beautiful scenery you've ever seen. And I think he would be the other one that would be an awesome collab right there because I would love to get up there and camp in some of those caves that they've got, and
Yep.
it would just be awesome.
Yeah, he's got a great channel. If nobody doesn't know about Scotty Gunn Walkabout, his channel is really good. I really enjoy his content as well. It's funny. A lot of yours people you're subscribed to, I probably watch as well. But
Yep.
yeah, it's amazing. Those rivers and caves, and yeah,
Oh,
it it's amazing over there. I would definitely love to go there. Yeah, I for me, man, Steve Wallace definitely would be high on the list for me as well. But there's one gentleman. He is in the UK. He hasn't uploaded anything in a while because he had a his first daughter, his first child. So he's kind of being a dad and not doing the YouTube thing right now. But Carlisle 195, he is John, and he's a chef by trade. So he always does campfire cookery, is what he calls it over there, and he always cooks gourmet meals and
hmm,
out camping. He's a hammock camper. He does like tents too, but over there, of course, wild camping's illegal, but they still do it because they have to. So pretty much every camp he does is a
right,
stealth. So that country makes it illegal. You have to go to like state parks if you want to go camping legally. So I don't think that's right when countries or states or whatever tells you you can't camp. It's like you say, even a city park. I mean, the homeless can camp there, so why can't I pitch a tent and camp there legally? That's just
right.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
So
the it's so funny though. You think about the difference between like the UK, England, all that stuff,
yeah,
but then you get over to Ireland and Scotland where they don't even have private property, where you can just traipse through somebody's property and hike along and stuff like that. It's kind of crazy that they're uh, sort of in the same area, but the rules are so different.
yeah,
But yeah, I'll have to check out that. I just wrote it down. I got me a notebook here because I'm terrible at live streams.
yeah.
So I got me a notebook here. I wrote that channel down. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to go camp with him because he's just like me. And he's more of a spur of the moment type camper. I kind of plan mine out a little bit. I can do spur of the moment too, but I mean, it's just he's not super. He does everything on his phone. He's not worried about the best shots, and he's just him. Like you say, you,
Yeah.
you get what you get, and I love his chat, and he's got a lot. He used to camp 2 or 3 times a week, and when he goes out, he has to walk 8 or 10 miles, to camp.
Wow.
So, um, yeah, he's fun to watch. He builds a lot of structures too, and does a
That's
lot of
cool.
neat things. Yeah, so yeah, it'd be definitely a good one for everybody to check out for sure. Let's see
Awesome.
here. Outdoor Boys. Somebody said Outdoor Boys. Greg Owens. Greg was on alone. Yep.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I met Greg and Zach Fowler last year at Georgia Bushcraft, and Greg is a genuine guy. He just stood there and talked to me, and we just I mean just he is a really really cool guy. That was a lot of fun to meet him in person.
that's one good thing about this community. We say over and over, and I say it over and over again. I mean, everybody, a lot of these big YouTube channels are just down to earth people when you meet them, and I've talked to several bigger YouTubers, and they respond every time, and they're
Yep.
genuine, and they're humble. Um, and the big ones that I'm still subscribed to, and I'm always going to be subscribed to them, is because they started out like I did. They start when I watched them, they had
Right.
50 subscribers. So, and now they have millions of subscribers. Just because they have a million subscribers doesn't mean I'm going to stop supporting them,
That's
because I've
right.
I've supported them from the very beginning. I'm one of Joe Robinette's longest subscribers, I'm sure. I've watched him when he first started out in Windsor with Scout, and
Yeah.
a lot of people don't like him. That's great. You don't have to
Yeah.
like everybody that everybody likes, but
That's
uh,
right.
I'm going to
It's
always support him.
yeah, I've enjoyed Joe. Actually, that's what I was watching is a lot of Joe Robinette stuff when I started putting my channel together.
Yeah,
And people have their, say what you want to say about the guy. And I know that he's like the rest of us. He's made some bad decisions and I hate it. It's kind of tough to watch some of the stuff now because you can see how much that this has affected him.
yeah,
But you know, he has done some awesome adventures, some awesome videos. And there I know there's people, there are haters out there. There's always going to be haters out there. But
yeah,
I enjoy his videos. I always have.
yeah.
So,
Me too. He's got his latest video that's out. It's close to his old roots, and his
yeah.
latest video, if you haven't seen it, he's as close as I think he's going to get to being old Joe again. I mean,
Yeah.
he went out, and his last two videos actually, he's done really
Yeah,
good.
I
And
did notice that he's getting some use in that hand back, which is good to
yep,
see.
yep, it is. He's got some good canoeing trips coming up planned with some of his old buddies, so I'm looking forward to that. But
Yep,
enough of talking
Doug
about, yeah.
Doug
Oh,
Linker that used to
yep,
go. He's how I started carving. I still
Doug,
watch
yeah.
Doug's videos to
Yep.
carve stuff.
Yep, he's always showing Doug's carvings on his dash in his
Yep.
truck, and yeah, they're good buddies. I enjoy Doug a lot too. It's awesome. So let's see here. Did I miss any comments? Let's see here. Looks like they're talking together. Randy, I would love to go camping with you and Ozark or Outdoors McGee. Yeah, Ken. Randy's a lot of fun to camp with. Uh, Ken says I'm mainly looking for channels with 10,000 or less subs. People can interact with like tonight. Yeah. And if I mean that's true. I mean bigger channels, it's so hard for them to interact, and it is their means of income, and they can't talk to everybody. That is a
That's
downside of that.
yeah, that's one of the tough things about it is if you don't have a YouTube channel, you don't realize like even me, I've got 3,700 subscribers. I might get, 50, 40, 50 comments a day, and I've got 3,700 subscribers. I
Yeah,
can't imagine like somebody that's got a million or more subscribers, how many comments they get on videos every day. And to try to it would be a full-time job just to try to respond to all those comments. So I can kind of understand the bigger channels. It's just tough um to get through all those comments. So don't feel too mad at them if they don't get back at you. They probably got 100,000 comments today.
yeah. And some of them, I'm sure, hire people to respond to comments, and
Right.
that's not right either. But I mean, how can you respond to 500,000 comments or
Yeah,
100,000 even?
yeah. Especially like some of these channels are putting out 2, 3 videos a week. You got to have an editor to do that because it's hard enough for me to keep up with one video a week.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Um, let's see here. I know Herbert just had a good question. It's hard for me to scroll back here. It says, "What kind of carving do you do? Practical items like bowls, spoons, etc., or trinkets?"
Well, I like to carve. Try to find a good representation. I like to carve spoons and stuff. So I
Oh,
carve
wow.
spoons and stuff like that. But I also like to carve like these. Whoop, about dropped it. These little guys, you know, um, just a little, uh, I don't know what you call them. The little caricature carvings. I
Yeah,
like these little um guys,
wow.
And my buddy Jimmy did this one for me, and I really like this one. This is his interpretation of me. It's
That's
pretty
pretty
close.
good. Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah,
yeah,
I like to carve all kind of different stuff.
you're a lot better at it than I am. Good night, two guys in the Ozarks. Thanks for coming in and stopping by. Yeah, the carving, I like whittling. I would say whittling. I'm not much of a carver. I like to just whittle and tinker with wood. I mean, the most intricate thing I've carved was a walking stick, and it's pretty nice, but I'm just not very artistic when it comes to carving. I'm sure I could learn to do it.
Yeah, when I start to carve, like if it's a stick from the woods or even a piece of basswood, I don't know exactly what it's going to be. I always like to say, I carve until I find what's inside it. You know, I just carve until whatever's in there comes out. So
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you can. I see a lot of people like Balm Outdoors. Kenny, he does water painting, and he thinks he's not that great, but that's just like, man, that's great. He tries to always water paint his campouts, and um, there was another YouTuber I subscribed to that he's passed away, but his channel's still up, and his name's Nagulero.
yeah,
And
man.
did you ever watch him?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he would always do the chalk art and different stuff, and he was such a good artist.
yeah. It was a shame we lost him.
Yeah, he was, a very good YouTuber and very good outdoorsman, and he's really what made me fall in love with the ASMR videos because that's what I like
Mhm.
doing the most. And it's just so peaceful, and he's in the remote wilderness, and you hear all the beautiful nature sounds. It is so peaceful.
You ever watch Swedwoods or Swedewoods, however you
Yep,
say it?
Freed Woods, he's on my top
Yep,
list too. Yep, I watch him
yep.
regularly.
He's got some awesome ones.
Yep, I love it. He's ASMR too.
Yep,
SB Wilderness Adventures. He's in northern Arizona. Um, if you haven't seen his channel, he would be a really good one to check out too. He loves hot tenting. Uh,
right.
with his dog Roxy. So he's does ASMR too. So I love it. I absolutely love his videos. And most people on YouTube says you can't do the same things over and over and over again. Well, all these guys do the same things over and over and over and over again.
Yep,
So that's not true, and they're big channels. So I like repetition. You cook something different or you use a different gear, but you're virtually doing the same thing over again. So that's
right.
kind of what I'm saying. I mean, um, I absolutely love that myself. So let's see here. I'm trying to keep up, make sure I didn't miss any questions here. Good. Well, I can get another question out here. What advice would you give to a new or growing YouTube channel?
Um, as far as a new YouTube channel, um, just get started. Um, everybody, your first videos, you are gonna hate them. The further along you get, you're gonna look back at those videos and you're gonna be like, "Oh Lord, I can't believe I did that or I said that or whatever."
Yep.
But you just have to get over that threshold. Just make a video and put it out there. Um, don't take haters to heart.
Yep.
There are gonna be haters out there, and when um for me, like when they'll say stuff about me all the time, they're always gonna mention me being fat. Every time. They're gonna go for that every time. And the thing
For
that I
sure.
like to say to them, and I would say don't interact with them because you're
Yeah.
just egging them on. But the thing that I like to kind of poke them with is I'll say, thanks for watching, commenting, and feeding the algorithm because those are
Yeah.
things they cannot take back. They have done that. They know they've done that. And when you say that to them, it makes them less likely to do it again or to keep going after you because they know they didn't get the reaction they wanted. And then they also know that they did exactly what you said they did and they can't take it back. So don't take those haters to heart. But the other thing I'd say is um, get a schedule that works for you and be consistent.
Yeah.
Be consistent with your videos because for me, my videos go up at 8 p.m. on Thursday nights.
Yep.
Every Thursday night, there's a video. And then I've just started doing this thing on Saturday morning, tips videos that I do
Yep.
Saturday morning at 9 a.m. But people, they get in that habit of doing things.
Yep.
And so if they know, okay, every Thursday night at 8 p.m., you're going to be on, you'll start growing that revolving base of people that watch your videos. And the more people you can get to watch that video from the beginning when it starts too. That's why I do premieres because you end up having a lot of people in the chats and you can hold those viewers through that whole video just about.
Yep.
That is what makes YouTube push that video out more. And this is coming from a guy, like I said, has got 400 videos and
Yep.
3,700 subscribers. So I don't know if I'm telling you the best information. It may not actually be working like I think it is. But
Yeah.
no, that's what I would say, just those few little tips. But get out, just make a video, get out there and get started.
Yeah. It's a shame that people, and that's human nature, unfortunately, that they pick out your, try to make fun of people about things, just like Campo a Champion last week. It was a shame on video. He had to say, I know my ears are big. He goes, you don't have to tell me about it. I've lived with them all my life.
Yeah,
It, it's
that's
unfortunate.
like for me, like people say, oh, they always got to go after the fat thing. Like, I've been fat my whole life. Do you think that you can come up with something witty to say that I haven't already heard? Like, I don't know. It doesn't even bother me anymore. I'll just hit them with my little thanks for watching, commenting, and feeding the algorithm. And I don't,
Yep.
most of the time, I don't delete comments. I
Yep.
just leave them up there unless it's vulgar. If it's vulgar, I'll delete it. But
Absolutely.
I leave them up there so other people can, see the comments. And a lot of times, I don't have to go after them. Somebody else will.
Yeah. It's fun, to go along with it. Herbert says, "I say never argue with a fool because you have to ask who the real fool is."
Yep,
That's great. That's right on, Herbert. That's exactly right. Yep. I like the answer you gave on that. That's really good advice and for new channels. And you always hear people wanting to start channels, or like you say, you feel uncomfortable, or they say they can't feel like talking to a camera or whatever. But you just kind of act like it's your talking to your buddy or your friend. Just
that's
act
right.
like it. You're
The
talking to
the
them.
other thing, there is one more thing that it is my pet peeve. When you're filming, look into the lens. Don't
Yep.
look at your screen to the side of your lens. Don't look into that lens because you think about this, you're trying to make a connection.
Yep.
And the way you make a connection when you meet somebody is you look them in the eye, shake their hand. So if you are looking at your screen to the side, you're not making eye contact. It's like you're looking past the person that's watching the video. So if
Absolutely.
you're looking into the screen directly, you're looking into the eyes of the person that's watching it, and it builds a better connection.
Yeah.
Let me
Absolutely.
throw
Yep.
this soapbox out of the way here. I'll get back off of it.
Hey, that's a great addition. I think that's 100% accurate because, you gotta get used to where your camera is if you're filming on a phone or filming on an actual camera or GoPro.
Right.
You're right. You're always wanting to see, if you're in frame right or whatever, you just have to get in the habit of just always knowing where to be and
That's
know
right.
your camera really well. That's great advice. Real good advice. Let's see here. Uh, which one I'm gonna ask here? What's your favorite hammock and gear?
Um, Again, for me, I kind of like to switch things up a lot, but my favorite hammock, I think, is the El Cheapo first hammock I ever got. And I can't remember if it was from Amazon or Walmart. I think it might have been the first thing I ever bought from Amazon. I can't remember. But I slept in that hammock so many nights. And it didn't have a ridge line on it. It didn't have anything. So I had to make that thing comfortable. But I
Yep,
guarantee you right now, I can go string that hammock up anywhere as long as my trees are the right width apart, and that thing's going to be comfortable right now. And that's probably my favorite hammock because I just know that thing like the back of my hand. And I've got, I don't know how many hammocks I've got now, but um, the most recent one I've got, I have a hammock mantis, and I got that one because it's ultralight. So the hammock, the suspension, the tarp, and everything on it is 3 pounds. And
wow.
so I like that because I wanted to try to use it to do some backpacking. And that thing, it's really comfortable too. I've really enjoyed that one. Um, so, but I think my favorite hammock is going to be that old cheapie that I've got that I just know it's like a pair of gloves that you've had for years or an old pair of sneakers. It's just comfortable. You know it is.
Yep. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I mean, once you find that hammock or, for you, it was your first one, but for
Yeah,
me, it was my last one that I bought, but I had to find the right one. And, you have to get the right hang for you, and do you like your feet higher or lower or level? I mean, like you say, the right distance. There's so many variables, and it's different for every single person. Because
that's right.
somebody somebody wants to get my advice. I'm like, well, I learned a lot from Shug on hammocks and what to do, and he's very knowledgeable. And I said I would suggest you go watch his videos, and he's funny. Uh, and
Yeah.
he's very, very smart as far as hammocks are concerned. And I've learned a lot from him. But uh, like you say, don't go buy the most expensive ones, and there's no reason to do that. You can find a inexpensive hammock and get a whoopee sling. Whoopee slings you can get for 20, 25 bucks or less. To do your ridge line or whatever. I mean, you don't need to spend a lot of money on your first hammock for sure.
Now I'll say this. One of the best hammocks that I've had recently, before I got this hammock mantis, it was the hanging high hammocks
Mm,
REM hammock. And so one of the problems I have being a big guy is when I lay down in the hammock, the ridge line will pull so tight on the bug net that it's hard to zip that hammock up. But
mhm.
Trevor and the folks over there at Hanging High Hammocks, they have designed that thing in such a way that it doesn't do that. I mean, I could unzip that thing no problem, and I use that hammock a lot of nights. And I think it's like $69 for that hammock,
Yep.
and I mean, very reasonable. And Trevor is a great guy. That whole family, they're great people, and he's a stand-up guy. I got one of his tarps that has the doors on it. I was stupid one day and I left it out. Well, the
Mhm.
wind blew. There was a huge gust of wind, and it popped one of my tie outs off of it, which ripped the hole in it.
Oh,
I
no.
wasn't saying, "Hey, man, I need a new one of these things." I was just explaining to him that this had happened. A few days later, I got a new one in the mail.
Wow.
And,
That
I mean, it's he stands behind it, and it's as far as budget gear, a budget hammock, that hanging high hammocks, I think it's the REM hammock or REM,
mhm.
that's a good buy.
Yep, absolutely, for sure. Yeah, Ken Adventures with Ken just won that hammock, he said, this weekend at the,
Oh, you're gonna
hammock
love it.
thing. Yeah. Yeah,
Now, no, go
that's
ahead.
that was exactly what I was gonna recommend too, that or a one win like I have is about the same
Yep,
price, $70, and you can't go wrong with either one of those for medium price hammock, it is way to go. And I wanted to say
right.
goodnight to Nomadic Camping with Endless Weekends, he's probably already gone, but he headed out tonight, so thanks for coming in, brother.
So
But
you're talking about Shug. I was actually able to meet Shug at HangCon this year and hang out with him a little bit. And
mhm,
actually, the Saturday night jam around the campfire, we actually sat around out there and had a really good time. And um, I may have had more than a good time around the campfire a little bit because I ended
yep.
up playing a cardboard box as an instrument. But it was a lot of fun though. But Shug he's a genuine guy, but he'll tell you that because he's always been a performer, a circus performer, he'll
Yep,
tell you that when a camera comes out, he turns on.
yep,
He turns into that performer. He turns into Shug. But when you
yep.
get him off by himself, he is the most genuine guy. I mean, it's really he's a nice guy. So that's just a little Shug anecdote.
Yeah. Well, kind of a spoiler alert, which everybody knows if you've seen my channel at all, but I'm going to interview him next Monday. So
Very
he's
cool.
been, yeah, gracious enough to, uh, I know he's super busy and he's got a lot of comments and stuff to keep up with. And he's definitely going to be gracious enough to give me an interview as well. And I
Yeah,
appreciate
he's a
you
great guy.
doing, yeah. He's got a lot of information, and I know a lot of people want to get into hammocks and want to like hammocks, but don't have the information. I can't explain it like Shug can, and he
Right.
he thinks of all the ins and outs that people don't tell you when you get into hammocking, and you know,
That's
you're
That's
yeah,
one thing I'd say too is you always hear people say, "Oh, I tried a hammock and I just couldn't get comfortable in it, and I'm never going to hammock camp again."
yep,
If you couldn't get comfortable in that hammock, it wasn't set up correctly for you.
yep, absolutely,
And the setup for me and the setup for you are totally different. It's
yep,
a trial and error. You have to adjust that fine adjustments.
yep,
And but once you get that thing dialed in, I
yep,
don't think you will ever find a more comfortable sleep than a hammock that is dialed in.
yep. And laying diagonal and laying flat, if you like to lay flat, I mean, I can toss right to either side. I'm a side sleeper too,
Yes.
and I can comfortably sleep on my backside, anything in my hammock. And Ozark's Great Adventures, Randy, he's going to go. We're going to do a collab this weekend, the coming weekend, and he got his first hammock, and we're going to get out and going to dial it in for him. And because I said we can get you comfortable in a hammock,
Yep.
just make sure you get. I always recommend, you don't have to get a 10-foot hammock, but at least 10 or 10.5 foot for his height. I said would be great. If you can get one close to 10 foot, you can. I mean, I've got a 9.5 foot hammock. I can sleep real comfortable in. So,
Yeah.
um,
That does make a difference too. The taller you are, the more hammock you're gonna want.
yep,
But like for me, I I like to lay diagonally, and I actually prefer an 11-foot hammock. I'm short. I'm 5'7", but I like that 11-foot hammock, and I always get a double hammock. Of course, I'm a big guy. I'm almost a double hammock guy anyway, but I like that double hammock where I can get more comfortable on a diagonal lay. Now, if you ever get a chance to lay in a Majestic hammock,
Yep.
Corey, Majestic hammocks,
Yep.
I don't know the witchcraft that he's doing to make these hammocks, but it is nothing that you've ever laid in. That's the most comfortable hammock I've ever laid in. And I mean, that's a waiting list. You got to get on a
Yep.
waiting list to get on the waiting list.
Yep.
I mean, but it's it's worth it, I guarantee you.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, Tony from Random Adventures and I've talked about is, he wants to get that hammock
Yes.
too, and I would love to have it. I just I can't justify that, much right now, but eventually,
Yeah, I
it's
know it.
definitely on my bucket list to get one for sure.
Right. Me too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. You know, I want to try to go to Hang Kong sometime soon. Hopefully, maybe next year I can get there. I don't know
It's
for sure, but I want to lay
if
in
you
one
can
for
make
sure.
it, it's worth it.
Yep, I definitely do. I mean, I've watched everybody's videos that was there, and I absolutely know I'd love it. So, but
There is anything you can ever want to buy hammock related, you can see it at HangCon. I
yeah,
guarantee you somebody's got it.
and get your hands on it, you know, and
Yep.
that's the difference is to feel it and with Corey's hammocks, you can get in them and try them out, and
Yes.
he can advise you on how it's going to be comfortable for you. So that's real important. I tell
Well,
people to go to a hang like that, and if you want to get into hammocking, because that's the ultimate place that you're going to learn the most in the shortest amount of time.
yeah, and there's a lot of people that I talk to that, well, I don't want to go to HangCon because I don't really hammock camp. I've got a tent. They
Yeah,
don't care.
yeah, they
You
don't
bring
care.
your tent down there and you might buy a hammock before you leave. I
Yeah,
mean, it's just that's how it is. Like you go down there, they have the Haven tent set up, they have the Amok tent set up. I mean the hammocks set up.
yep,
Um Corey's got his Majestic hammock set up. The big name Superior Gear, UGQ underquilts, all that stuff is
yep,
there where you can put your hands on it, like you were saying.
yep,
And I'm that kind of guy. I want to be able to touch it
yep,
before I buy it.
yep,
So
exactly.
HangCon is definitely worth it if you can make the trip.
Yep. Awesome. Good stuff, man. There's so much good stuff. I knew that really appreciate you coming on here, man. I knew we would get a overwhelming amount of information, which is good.
Yeah,
You
I'm a
know,
talker too, so I'm sorry.
yeah. So am I. So no,
Mhm.
that's what everybody was saying about. I was teasing Tony when we did our interview with him, and I said, "Well, Tony, we get along so well and talk on the phone." I said, we ain't gonna have any problem. And I said, you answered all the questions I was gonna ask. So because everybody afterwards is saying, "Well, he did all the talking." I said, "He did all my work for me."
Yeah, Tony's a great guy.
Yeah, he is. He's the best. I mean, he he's definitely a good guy for sure. I guess staying on topic here, I get another question out. A lot of people's had some good questions in the comments, so that's good too. So, well, I guess the next question is kind of your favorite tent and gear. I'm sure you have a favorite tent that you like.
My favorite tent, I think, right now is probably that one win bivy tent.
Yeah.
Um, just because it's kind of my newest piece of gear, and but I do like the form factor of it. It's small and easy to pack down. Um, but the I thought that I would love the backwoods bungalow because I love the awning that's on it.
Hmm.
Man, I have never had a tent that creates so much moisture inside it. That tent is crazy. It doesn't matter if you've got the awning up and the mesh is open on it, it's still going to be, a swamp in there in the morning. And it could be a Florida thing too because of the humidity, but
Yeah.
um yeah, I think that little one wind bivy tent is my favorite. Now, that other bivy tent that I got, the Eureka Solitaire,
Uh
that's
huh.
a nice little small footprint tent, But the problem I have with that one is you can't set up in it, and if you're stuck in one, and the mosquitoes are terrible outside, and you can't get up and move around, which is a Florida problem. Um, you can't set up in it, and so you're just kind of stuck laying down in that one. But that one's nice because it has a ton of mesh. So, but I'd say that little bivy tent's probably my favorite tent. Um, Gear as far as like sleeping bags and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I actually use my top quilt for my hammock
Uh-huh.
as my top quilt for tent camping too, because they don't really make good sleeping bags that aren't, 15 pounds for a guy my size. If
Yeah.
I get in a regular sleeping bag, I'll zip that thing up and I look like a sausage. I'm
Yeah.
just, mashed into it. So I found that the top quilt I've got's a Jacks are better,
Uh-huh.
and that thing it's super nice. I think it's a 20 degree, and I've had it down to below freezing, and been perfectly, no problem at all. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I use my top quilt a lot too. It depends, um, on the coldness, because my top quilt kinda goes with my underquilt to get me that extra, uh, degree, so I don't have a top quilt that's warm enough to get, if I'm below my top quilt probably get me to 30 degrees, I would say.
yeah,
But if I'm much lower than that, I have to add my wool blanket to it or something like that. But that's cool. Um,
yeah.
Kind of going with that, Adventures of Ken asked, "What do you think of One Tiger's gear?"
Um, I've had some decent one tigress stuff. Um, I've also seen people that have not really had the best luck with one tigress gear.
Yeah,
Um, and I think it's just a matter of, it's kind of a toss up. It's like they used to say about what day was your car made on a Friday. It might not be the best car. So
yeah,
I think it's kind of a toss up there. But I know I bought that one tigress compound hammock, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're gonna love that thing." It was horrible for me.
yeah,
Um, it just didn't work for me. But again, there's other people that swear by that thing, and it's got the sleeve. You can put a pad inside it. I mean, I didn't. As far as like being well made, it was fine, but the tent itself just didn't. I mean, the hammock itself just didn't work for me. But like I said, I've got that backwoods bungalow, and it's the 2.0. It's got more um, mesh on it, but that thing still just it doesn't breathe. It's
huh.
pretty bad.
Yeah, I haven't personally bought any One Tigers myself. There's been a few items that I've been interested in, but I'm pretty comfortable with the gear that I have. So, I
Yeah,
mean, I like getting new stuff, and especially if you can get a really good deal, like if it's on clearance, like the three-person tent I got this winter at Bass Pro was on clearance. It was a $200 tent. I got it for 80 bucks. It was that
good
Ascend
deal.
tent that I got, and it's a really nice tent, but and it's one that I've been looking at for a long time, but I'm not usually into spending $200 on a tent.
Yeah,
I'm 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 pretty frugal, I'd say, but like I tell everybody else, you don't, like you said earlier, you don't have to spend a tremendous amount of money to get out.
that's right.
Spe- Especially you don't want to spend $200 on a tent if you have no idea if you're going to like it or not. I mean, uh, obviously you can't sleep in it before you buy it, but I mean, you can watch a million YouTube videos and find out everybody's different uh, perspectives on that
That's
product
right.
and make a educated guess as closely as you can. But I definitely recommend everybody doing that. If you don't know anybody that has the product that you can borrow, then definitely do your homework on it.
Yeah. And that's like we were talking about getting into, going to these hangs or go to group camps and stuff like that. You're more likely to see those things and actually be able to touch it and get your
Yep,
hands on it.
absolutely. Yep. Awesome. Some good stuff here. Let's see here. What would you say to encourage a person to get out and camp? Which, I mean, we kind of hit on that earlier um, with the question with Herb. Is there anything else that you think you could add to that? If there's somebody in here tonight that's watching and not commenting that wants to get out and camp, I mean, uh,
So, I mean, to encourage somebody to get out and camp, um, I I, I would just say that there's a difference between watching it on TV and
yep,
being there in person.
yep,
Um, Go somewhere. Just, I mean, even if you just go for one night, go get yourself some gear or borrow some gear. Find a friend that's got some gear, borrow some gear, and just go set up for the night. And like, just be open minded about it because don't it's not going to be it's not always going to be the YouTube beauty whatever that you see because a lot of times that's not realistic.
yep,
But it's just being there, being connected, and getting out there and cooking your food outside. Campfire food is better than anything else. I don't care what
absolutely.
anybody tells you. Um, it's just being out there in it. So just bite the bullet and go. I mean, um, and the other side of that is if you don't enjoy it, if you try it a couple of times and you don't enjoy it, there's nothing saying that you have to do it, you know?
Yep. Yeah, like Ken said, going to a campground, like we said earlier, and you said that touched on that earlier. And
Yep,
Herbert saying take some friends and a camera. First time camping always makes for great stories. You know,
yep,
that's the great thing about doing these lives and getting to interact with your subs and people coming in because they get the advice from. That's why I wanted you on here to collab more than I mean, we've hit a lot of stuff that I've talked about in previous lives, but you have different aspects and different advice to go with
right.
that.
Well,
That's
we've all
so
got different experiences.
yeah, and so many different levels, like you say. I mean, you want to get the like you say, you want to get the most simple, easiest gear to take out, nothing super complicated. No super complicated food that's going to stress you out. Like Ken says, go campground. I highly recommend somebody go to campground, like you say. The amenities that make it more comfortable for them, and they've got the water there that they don't have to bring. Uh, you know, all that is great stuff and really good. So, if people
Yeah,
aren't in here, go
it's
ahead.
all those things just make it a little more enjoyable and that first like again like with your kids too. That first experience is going to set the tone.
Yep,
So you want them to have a good time. You want to have a good time. And like, your subscriber said, go out there with some friends. If you don't know what you're doing, take some friends with you that know what they're doing
yep,
and be open-minded and willing to take some help. A lot of us are stubborn and don't want any help, and you're going to be over there miserable fighting with this tent when if you just wait just a couple of minutes, have somebody show you, be open minded, have somebody with more experience help you, it'll make the whole experience so much more fun. You might learn some tips and tricks too.
absolutely. Yep, for
You see
sure.
that? My wife brought me a cup of coffee in here. That's pretty good.
She is a saint, isn't she?
She is.
Yep. Yeah, Randy says, and don't camp in 1,011 degrees. Yeah, that's for sure.
We we have a camp that we do, me and some buddies, and we always do it in July or August here, and we call it Camp Misery. And it's a test of wills, is what it is. It's the most miserable thing. And a couple of years ago we went, and it's the first time I've ever seen it get hotter after the sun went down.
Oh
It
no.
literally, the breeze went away and the humidity shot through the roof, and we were just sitting there, just pouring sweat. And I'll never forget that my buddy Jimmy was in a hammock a few, yards away from me. And at like 12:30 at night, he's like, I'm drenched in sweat. We're like, we're all drenched in sweat, Jimmy. And it was just, we were all waiting for one person to tap out. If one person had tapped out, there would have been a mass exodus out of that place. But nobody was willing to be that guy.
Sounds about right. It sounds like
Find some good friends to camp with. It's a lot of fun.
yeah, it sounds like the camping experiences I had as a young kid. When I go with my parents, and they'd always choose to go in July or August, and with my aunt and
I'll
uncle,
never
and
understand it.
it's so miserable. I'd never sleep in my tent. I'd sleep half in the water and half on the shore. I would be
Yep.
so hot. Yeah, for sure.
I always joke
Camping.
about with my buddies, um when I go camping with those guys, it's like running around in the woods with my buddies when I was a kid. There's always somebody's going to have a bad decision and everybody else is going to egg them on, and it's always just a lot of fun. So yeah.
Yeah, friends make it worth it. It's so much fun. I'm a lone wolf a lot, like Luke on Total Outdoor Gear Review, but I also like to camp with friends and family too. So I mean, um, you
Yeah,
get your own.
I solo camp quite a bit, but it's also nice sometimes to get out there with your buddies and just you know everybody, like, you bring these steaks or somebody brings something else, and then what happens is you end up having a bunch of different things, and somebody's like, hey man, you want a bite of this and you want a bite of
Yeah,
that, and so it all gets passed around, and it's just, well, we're making memories. you know
absolutely.
it's definitely a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't go wrong with that, and the memories that you get to tell your children and your grandchildren, and and two, like we touched earlier, having YouTube channels makes it even that much more memorable because you'll have, you know, the documentation of that, and
Yeah.
you can laugh about it later. I always love watching, people say they always see something different. Like I watch my favorite movies over and over again because I always strive to find something that I've never
Yep.
seen before.
That's right.
So, um, a lot of people doesn't like going back and watching old videos of channels. Well, that's my favorite thing to do is see your very first videos,
Oh,
and then yeah, I mean
they're
it.
horrible.
Well, I mean, you can, like you say, I mean, you can see how far you've come. Every YouTube channel I watch, I go back and watch everybody's content just because
Yep.
I want to see where they came from, what gear they had when they first started out,
Yep.
and it is comical to see even in my mistakes and where what I do wrong, and then you'll look back at your videos and say, man, I sure learned from that, but it's usually from
That's right.
another YouTuber
Yep.
or a buddy. Like Ken said earlier, you learn from different levels of people, experienced, and even a new beginner will come out camp and say, hey, did you think of doing it this way? And you might think, well,
Right.
I've never thought of doing it that way. So does it make sense to that's kind of how I've always done in all my jobs in my career is I take bits and pieces from everybody
Right.
and develop your own style, and that's the same way in the outdoors. I mean, fishing, hunting, camping, hiking, it all. I mean, you, like you said, you literally have to get out and do it. But once you learn the basics, then you can fine tune it to your own
Yeah,
as far as a hammock, as far as what
exactly.
sleeping pad you want to use, a pillow. You know, um,
Lord
somebody
knows there's
on
enough pillows on the market to try to go through.
I don't know what channel it was here recently. I can't remember, but somebody I watched recently was touching on pillows and different stuff, and they was talking. Somebody asked them in the comments about starting out camping, and he had a really good advice as far as just pull stuff from your home. You got even your pillow off
Yeah,
your bed and stuff you're comfortable with for your first camp out too, because like you said, you want it your most the best experience possible. So if your
right,
kids have a favorite blanket and a favorite pillow, make sure you take
right.
that in the camp with them.
Well, and typically your first camp out is going to be a car camp anyway. You're not going to be 20 foot from your vehicle. Bring
Yep.
that pillow that's comfortable from home. Like you said, bring your kids' favorite blanket, you know. The I don't think I have it here where I can get to it, but I was the complete opposite of that last night. I had stuff sack with some clothes stuffed inside it, and that was my pillow last night.
Yep.
So, you know,
Well, that's part of not being prepared. You can always use your backpack, or you can always use a
yeah,
stuff sack from your tent, or like you say, I mean, there's a million different ways you can make a pillow. So even if you forget one, I know camping with Champion, that's the biggest thing he forgets every time's a pillow. But
mhm.
I laugh at him because he's like, this last time he took two pillows. But yeah, whatever your comforts are. My kids' big thing was hot dogs, and my first camp out, I took them on. I knew if I took hot dogs and stuff to do s'mores, they were going to have the best time in the world, and they still talk
Yeah.
about it to this day.
Well, I've got an idea that I'm gonna do a video coming up on that, on getting kids involved with the campfire cooking,
Yeah,
and that's one of the ways that you can get them, because that's something that they're not, you know, typically allowed to do at home. You know, kids don't cook most of the time, and unless you're like me, when your kids got big enough to run a microwave, I.
yeah,
But you know, get them involved. Let them roast their hot dogs, and they cook that hot dog over the fire and put that thing on a bun. I mean, they just cook their own dinner, and that's a step towards being a little more self-sufficient.
yep,
And those little things like that, that's good for a kid's self-esteem. You know, make it
absolutely,
fun for them.
absolutely. Minnesota Mike had a good question here. How important is it to know what you're doing to put yourself out there?
So I would say that there are a few things that you need to know when you're going out camping. Like, um it's, to me, building a proper fire, being able to get fire, that's something that you need to know. So if
Absolutely.
you're not really good at getting a fire going, that's something you need to be working on at home if you can. Now I understand that there are some folks that live in places that you can't build fires, but that's something you need to be working on at home. Those are some of the things that, building a fire, filtering water if you have to filter water. Um,
Yeah,
those things, it's important to know how to do that stuff, because those are more of like in my opinion, like life preserving type skills.
yeah,
So it is definitely important to know those things. But on the flip side of that, that's why you can go camping with a friend, go camping with people who know how, and it can
yeah,
kind of mentor you on that and can kind of, walk you through those things if you don't know. Um, or, shoot, watch some of the YouTube videos. Like, I've got some videos that over the last few months that I have been, doing on finding fat wood.
yeah.
And, fat wood is a big thing for us here. I don't know out in your area what your like fast fire thing is, like nature's fast fire.
Yep.
Everybody's got one in your area, whether it's cedar bark
Backward.
or fat wood or what have you, birch bark up north.
Yep.
Learn how to find that, identify it, process it, and use it. Because if nothing else, you can find that stuff and you can get a fire started.
Yep.
So those couple of skills, I would say, is pretty important to know before you kind
Absolutely.
of put yourself out there. But in general, just go out there, find some people that know how to camp, know what they're doing. Go out there and
Yeah.
learn what you can. My dad used to always tell us, learn everything that anybody's willing to teach you. At some point, you're going to be able to
Mhm.
use it.
Absolutely. Yep. Fatwood's a big thing here for sure. And yeah, those are really good tips for sure. Um, it's funny. Ventures with Ken's just posted my next question. So I think he's seeing my question list I got written down, but it's
Mm.
like, what's your favorite camp meal? And then, of course, above that, he's saying that foil meals are good. And I do a lot of foil meals for sure.
So for me, my favorite camp meal is pork steaks over the fire.
Oh,
We
buddy.
don't eat a lot of pork here at home. My wife really doesn't eat, she doesn't like pork a lot.
Uh-huh.
And pork steaks over the fire for me is a winner every time.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I'm doing carnivore, so I can't really do the potatoes and stuff like that that's in a foil pack. But foil
Yeah.
packs, that's something that when we go camping, she'll make foil packs for her, and they're so easy to,
Yeah.
you just wrap them up, throw them on the fire, and just let them cook. And
Yep.
the nice thing about foil packs is when you're done, you just ball it up, and you got a little piece of garbage to throw away. It's not like you've dirtied up a bunch of pans and that sort of thing. So keep it simple.
Yeah. Uh, that is that's probably the best thing that I like about it, and like the kids with the hot dogs and stuff. I mean, just simple stuff. I mean, I don't mind doing, and if I'm doing my most elaborate cookings, if I'm doing like car camping or, in a
Yeah.
campground or something, but I'm not going to pack in a bunch. I know a lot of YouTubers do it, but I'm not going to pack in I'm out to have a good time with nature and enjoy and decompress and enjoy my time. I'm not going to worry about cooking a 5-course meal out on the trail. I just, that's just me. Um,
Yeah, I've got a buddy who is a chef, and so we'll go out and do a group camp. A lot of times we do a big group camp for New Year's. And a few years ago, somebody brought a bunch of bananas, and he did bananas Foster over the campfire, and it was so much fun because it was like being on a cooking show. He was yelling out stuff, I need somebody chopping bananas, and we're like, yes, chef, and we're over here chopping bananas, and he's just, it was so much fun. So the simple stuff is nice, it's easy to do and stuff like that. But sometimes when you get a big group together, it's nice to throw together a big meal. We've done a low country boil 4 miles in the woods. Somebody
wow.
carried, a big stock pot, and we, all this stuff. And yeah, it was fun though. A lot of work, but it was fun.
That's another part. That's campfire is my favorite part of camping, but the food is always, like you say, everything. Even if it's a mediocre meal like spam. I mean, I love spam, but a lot of people don't like it. But when you cook
Yeah,
it
me too.
at camp, it tastes so much better.
Oh yeah,
Anything tastes better at camp for sure.
that's
Uh,
right.
and I mean, like you say, when everybody brings their own stuff, you can trade and barter, and everybody wants a little bite of yours, and it's
That's right.
100% right. I mean, it makes the trip so good. I mean, plus I know a lot of chefs that like to do outdoors and camp, and they have their own freeze dryers or the dehydrators. There's no reason why you can't make your own dehydrated meals and take them out, so they're
Right.
not so expensive, and you can get more elaborate with those dehydrated meals, so it's not so boring.
Yeah, I've dehydrated some chili and stuff like that in the past and made it and taken it out there and rehydrated it, and it is so good. I mean, that's I've got that little dehydrator, and that thing is nice to use sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I like it. I need to get in it more, and I've been finding a lot of stuff. Like there's a couple when we went to Midwest Bushcraft winter camp. Uh, we there's a little mom and pa type uh, company that does dehydrated mills, and of course I bought a few of those, and oh man, they're so good. But it gives you good ideas of how you can make your own, and gives good ideas. Even the ones that you like, the name brands, when like Peak Refuel and Backpackers Pantry, all these good ones, you can. There's no reason you can't make your own.
That's right.
Uh, I guess that's my 2 cents worth. I mean,
Mhm.
that goes in with everything we've talked about tonight. I mean, going to thrift stores and buying used gear, and making your own food, and taking everything, all the comforts you love from home, you can take to the outdoors with you. Like you
Yeah,
said, go.
you just adapt.
Yeah. And once you get more advanced or more remote or dispersed or primitive, you tone it down, and by then maybe you got the lighter gear and you can fit everything in a backpack, and you know don't go out on a 30-mile hiking trip for your first hike. Do a
Yeah,
short one. Hike in a mile or two, and you know
it is
people.
funny how you when you start out with a bunch of gear. You start out with everything in this world that you can think of, and then the further you go out, the more you start refining that gear down. Did I really need to bring that last time? I never even used it.
Yep.
And you start tapering down and stuff. And last night I had a handful of things with me, and I was able to carry it in a light little backpack. And I
Yep.
still had a great time last night. So over the time, you do whittle down your gear, and you kind of quit packing your fears so much.
Yep. Kind of froze up there for a second. Okay. Herbert's got a question. What's your go-to for bug deterrent besides pyrimethamine?
So I try to actually, um, I can't hardly use DEET or anything like that because it burns the skin, burns my skin. So
Okay.
I don't know if I have any around here, but I use that, and now I won't be able to think of the name of it either. But it's from Walmart. It's the more natural bug repellent stuff.
Oh,
Um,
the eucalyptus
yeah,
mint. Yeah.
yeah, whatever that stuff is, I like to use that, and even that I use sparingly. Um, but for me, um, I like to have one of the little small thermocells because
Yeah.
I would rather have that thermocell under me, keeping the bugs off of me, than having to wipe all that stuff on me if I can help it. It just doesn't work well with my skin.
Yeah. Yeah. Adventures with Ken said skin so soft. Yeah. Avon
Oh yeah,
really, that stuff works great. Yeah. We
it
used
does
to.
work great.
Yeah, it works really good. My mom used to sell it back in the day, and we found out back then, that's when you found out the hard way. I mean, then you didn't really know about it until after the fact, but now it's a lot harder to find.
Yep, that's right.
Good night, Randy. Appreciate you coming in, brother. I'll see you Friday. But yeah, there's so many things that you can use. I mean, they don't like garlic, and if you eat a lot of garlic in your diet, that helps a lot too. I used to use the what do you call it, uh, the tasteless, odorless garlic pills tablets. I used to take
Oh
those
yeah,
as a
yeah, yeah.
supplement, but
So I was told, now I don't go 10 miles in the woods and take this with you and find out that it doesn't work, but you can try this. I'm told that it works really good. Dryer sheets. for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the strong smell or whatever. I had a fella tell me that dryer sheets work really good because he's allergic to a lot of different things, so he won't put anything on his skin. But he
Yeah.
said that you can take a dryer sheet and put it like in the back of your hat, in the band of your hat, or on your in the collar of your shirt, and that dryer sheet will actually keep mosquitoes run away. So if nothing else, it's a good thing for you guys to test out and see if it actually works.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
But
if
don't go
you're
get eat up and blame Shaun for it.
oh, I won't do that. But if you're like any of the rest of us, sometimes you have them hanging out of your pant leg or your shirt anyways, and you
Yeah,
don't know
whether you wanted it or not.
it. Oh, yeah. Like you say, Thermacell, I've never used one, but I would like to use one to see if they actually work. I get mixed reviews on people on YouTube with those. So some people say they work for certain insects and not for other ones. So,
Yeah.
um,
The thermocell, man, I sometimes I'll set that thermocell up under me. Even when the mosquitoes are bad, sometimes I'll put that thermocell up under me and leave my bug net unzipped, and
really
it'll run them right out from under my tarp.
awesome. Yeah, Herbert T. Outdoors said it didn't work for black flies where I am. Yeah, that's what I've heard a
Yeah,
lot. That black flies, it
I don't
doesn't
know
work
about
for
black
them.
flies.
Yeah, yeah. That's one bad thing about the summers here. You get the flies and mosquitoes really bad. But
Yeah,
knock on wood, ticks don't bother me too terribly bad. Once in a blue moon, I'll get one, but um, I use that eucalyptus. Well, that's what we used this past weekend. My wife and I went on vacation to Arkansas and did a camp, 4-day camp, and we used it, and it worked pretty good. I ended up getting one crawling on me, but I didn't get any that bit me, and they were thick in those woods.
oh yeah, we get ticks a lot around here.
Yeah, skeeters, but not flies. Minnesota Mike said on the thermocell. So yeah, that makes sense. Uh,
Yeah,
but it's worth it for me to try one because mosquitoes are bad, man. Uh, they're really bad here. Ticks and mosquitoes are the worst two things for summer here for me. Uh, I can deal with the flies, but the mosquitoes and ticks, man, I
yeah.
can't stand those. Awesome. That's a lot of good questions. Let's see here. Didn't miss any, did I? I don't think so. Um, okay, since he asked that question, you kind of touched on EDC earlier, so I'm not going to touch on that really. I'm kind of like you. I kind of use different stuff because I like all my stuff. So,
Oh yeah.
um, what basic knots would you recommend? I think that's a good one. Everybody has their own recommendation. I hear 3 basic knots or 5 basic knots.
Yeah.
I'll
The for me, I think that if you can master a bowline, a trucker's hitch, and just a simple square knot, you can pretty much do whatever you need to do when it comes to our typical camping, setting a ridge line, tying things
Mhm.
down, uh, tying ropes together, that sort of thing. You can get uh, more elaborate, but for the basics, those 3 knots will pretty much get you done. I would say throw a half hitch in there and
Yep.
learn that. Half hitches um, are indispensable. You can use those for a ton of different things. But like I said, there's a ton of knots out there. But if you get those 3 down to start with, you can pretty much do whatever you need to do. You've got a loop on the end of your line. You can tension your line, and you can hook
Mm.
2 lines together. So that's a
Absolutely.
simple 3.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. That's my 3 that I usually recommend for people. I mean, and I always say the least amount of knots and the easiest knots. I'm not big on the all these tensioners that are out. I mean,
Yeah,
they work. Obviously, they work in least amount of knots to use them, but it doesn't take any. hardly any knowledge at all to make those same knots and do the same
Right.
thing. Trucker's hitch is the easiest thing, and then you know, uh, slippery half hitch to finish it off. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just basic, simple stuff. You don't need more gear to, you know, you
Well,
can overcomplicate it. You know,
yeah, the thing about it too is for me it's similar to people wanting to use all these different fire starters.
yeah,
The problem is you get dependent on that,
yeah,
and you have these little the little firefly things to tension your line or all that stuff. If something happens, you lose that thing and you don't know how to tie a trucker's hitch, you might kind of be up a creek.
yeah,
You don't know how to find your fast fire, your easy fire out in the woods, and you run out of your little fire starters, you might be in trouble. So
yeah,
that's why I'm more of a learn how to do it the right way. Maybe the right way is not the correct thing to say, but learn how to do it without all the extras.
yeah.
Once you get that down, then you can toss some of those things in there just to make it a little more fun, convenient, or something like that. But learn how to do it without all that stuff to start with.
Absolutely, because if we get in a situation where you don't have access to those items, um, and it's a wet environment, you definitely need to, like you say. I mean, it may not have to be your primary, but you definitely need to brush up and hone your skills and make sure you're
Right.
proficient on fire starting, in case SHTF does happen, you'll have means to start a fire because there's so
That's right.
many people that have no clue how to start a fire without, like you say, an accelerant of some sort.
Right.
You know, um, that's really good. That's exactly 100% what I would say. Same with purifying water, which boiling water and tabs or bleach, whatever you're going to use, but you can't always have all those conveniences in every situation. So,
Right.
it really depends. Um, Knots that you can tie one handed, Herbert said. Well, that's a good idea in case you would break
That's
your
something to
arm.
practice too.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
something we should be practicing because you never know when you're going to be in that situation.
Yeah.
That's a good
Hope,
point.
yeah, hope not. And like you say, how often does it happen? Slim to none, but it's something. If you get trauma happens, you could be in shock and you may not be thinking, right. So anything simple, and
That's right.
you don't want to be trying something new when you're in a stressful situation like that.
Well, we buy car insurance hoping to never have to use it,
Yep, for sure.
so that's, it's always good to learn these skills and, like the one-handed fire starting. That's another good one to try.
Yep. What's your favorite preferred fire starting device? Um,
Um,
Ken.
Probably my big lighter, as far as like starting a fire, but I definitely like to bushcraft it and use my ferro rod too. I've got some uh nice ferro rods. Matter of fact, this one right here you can see of my gear gets used. You can see that little ferro rod there is
Oh wow,
worn,
yeah, that's worn really
but
good.
but you know, ultimately, like I feel like the using my ferro rod, that's something I do when I just want to do it the old way or I want to do it a
Yep.
different way. But if I just need to get a fire started real quick, I just go to my Bic lighter. I've always got two Bic lighters. I've got the one I'm carrying in my
Yep.
pocket, and I keep a Bic lighter in my first aid kit.
Yeah, that's what I always tell everybody. I mean, it's great, and kind of like we talked about on the fire starters and everything. I mean, my first go to every time is a Bic lighter, and then it's a ferro rod, and then each to their own. I know you're going to offend somebody, but flint and steel is not my go-to, just for the fact that if you're in an emergency, you're not going to want to mess around with flint and steel to try to get a fire starter or a
Yep.
bow drill. It is nice
Yeah,
to have.
I would say flint and steel is my third one. Past that, I think like I have done but I've made a bow drill work before, but I'm pretty sure I would rather freeze to death and starve before I made another fire with a bow drill. I know
Yeah,
that's one of those things that people hang their hat on, like, oh, I can get a friction fire very easy.
yep,
I'm not that guy. I just don't. I don't know. It's not worth all the extra effort to me.
yep, absolutely. Yeah. I missed a good question from TD Knives and Adventures. He said, I think he meant, what about foraging? I think's what he means. I don't know if you can see that comment on your side. You probably can't see the comments very well.
No.
Um,
So I actually I like to do some foraging. I am actually trying to get better at the wild edibles and wild medicinals. And I've been started putting up a few videos, the just the tips videos that I've been doing on
mhm,
some foraging stuff. And spring now's a good time to start learning that stuff.
yep,
Um I would love to get with somebody that actually knows and could teach me how to forage for mushrooms. I know a few, but I don't think I know enough to be knowledgeable enough to safely pick mushrooms and eat them. That's something that I feel like you can't learn from a book. You need somebody that is still alive that has eaten them,
yeah,
and that can show me for sure. Okay, I ate this one a few times and it didn't kill me.
yep,
But yeah, that's I like to do foraging stuff, and there's so much stuff out there that you don't realize. We're cutting it down and spraying weed killer on it, but
yeah,
there's a lot of stuff out there that you can actually pick and use for food or medicine. One in
absolutely.
particular, I get gout, and I've also had kidney stones. And there's a weed in my yard called stonebreaker that you can actually use. You can use it daily in a tea, and it will break down those stones and things like that. And if the crap ever hits the fan one day and I
Yep,
can't get medicine for that stuff, those are the things that I want to know how to fix. So I don't know. I've
absolutely.
started getting more into that.
Yeah, that's really good. I've got a book of, and I always recommend that people get a book for their area too. There's a
Yeah,
lot of edibles that are common throughout the United States, but a lot of states have, like you said, that weed there and certain medicinal plants and
right.
stuff. So I've got one, wild edibles from Missouri here, and I always tell people, make sure you study up on your trees and your wild edibles and stuff in your area because you'll have some that we don't.
That's
So
right.
that's real good advice for sure. I'm not much into the mushrooms only because there's a lot of famous mushroom hunters that actually have died themselves from eating mushrooms that made a mistake and ate the wrong
That's
mushroom,
right.
and um, stuff like that that's dangerous. I leave for the professionals, but I'm more so that I'll just get them from the grocery store.
Right. Yeah.
If the crap hits the fan, I guess I'll just have to rely on somebody that knows a little
I'll
more about
forego
them.
mushrooms.
Yeah, yeah. There's plenty of other edibles I can eat. Oh wow. Let's see. Did I miss? Missed. Sorry for missing your question, Daniel. I did find. I hope that's answered your questions there. Um, Adventures of Ken said, first aid is something I don't carry. I know I should, but I don't, which I hear that a lot. I got another buddy that says that too. I always have a minimal first aid kit with me because
Yeah.
90% of the time you're going to get what I call a boo boo. First aid kit, at least you need to carry. Uh, uh, a tourniquet would be important too in case you do get a deeper cut. Um,
Yeah, tourniquets. That's one of those things that is very controversial. You always hear people saying that if you need a tourniquet and you're 2 miles back in the woods, you're, probably not going to make it anyway.
Yep.
Um, but the on the other hand of that, I would rather have it and try to use it and not make it than just go, oh well, I guess I'll sit down by this stump and die now.
Yep.
I'd rather be a little more proactive about it. But I do carry a first aid kit. I carry, some stuff for light burns and um band-aids and things that that could possibly ruin your trip. Maybe it's not going to be life threatening, but it could ruin your trip and make you have to go home. So why would I not carry something small and light that's going to make
Yep.
me be able to patch myself up real quick and get back to doing what I'm doing versus having my whole weekend ruined and having to pack up and go back home. So
Yep.
that's kind of the way I look at it. Yeah, maybe I don't want to have a surgical kit with me because I wouldn't know how to use it anyway. But I want to know how to, fix those little, like you said, boo boos, um, and be able to go on with my trip.
Yeah, my biggest thing worry is getting an infection or something. So you want to keep it clean and dry and have some kind of antibiotic, like triple antibiotic ointment or something. That's my biggest concern. But like you say, I mean, us as outdoorsmen, a lot of YouTubers carry hatchets and saws. I mean, it's very likely that you could cut a finger off or whatever, or slip and cut
Yep.
yourself in the shin. I've seen a lot of injuries like that. So there's if you carry a hatchet or a saw or knife, even you've got a high probability of cutting yourself pretty good.
Yep. One of the most dangerous things in the woods, a hatchet.
Yep, for sure. Glance off, even the most experienced people. I mean, chainsaws, even. I mean, that people
That's
use. I
right.
mean, loggers have cut off limbs, of their own, not just off a tree. I mean, it's people get careless, or you get tired, or you get fatigued, and you're hiked in for, you're exhausted, and you need to start a fire, and you just get careless. I mean, it's usually when it happens.
That's right. And you get comfortable.
Yeah,
You get used to doing something so many times you never had a problem with it. That's when it's
yeah,
going to bite you. So,
absolutely.
it's better to just be like I like to err on the side of being prepared versus being unprepared. If you carry
Absolutely.
a tourniquet, I mean, the thing weighs a few ounces. It doesn't
Yep,
take up much room, but
yep,
know how to use it. That's the other thing. A lot of people will own a tourniquet and have never even prepped it. That's the other thing. Prep it. Make sure you know how to use it.
yep.
If you're going to carry it, know how to use it. If not, leave it at home.
Yep, for sure. And practice doing it on yourself, because it's so much easier to do it on somebody else than yourself.
Yes,
So you need to practice on yourself, not just like kind of going with Herbert said, one-handed. I mean, you may be one-handed, you've got to use your mouth, whatever you need to use, your toes, take your shoes off if you have to, whatever you
yeah,
need to do. Um, TD Knife said he heard dried pellets work well for that too. I've heard that as well. Uh,
and the other thing on that the first aid stuff, um, you can think outside the box too. Um, Improvised first aid is a good thing to think about. You can use
yep,
your spoon out of your cook kit as
yep,
a splint for a finger. You can
yep,
use your stakes from your kit as a splint for a wrist or your fingers, stuff like that. Trekking poles for your legs, a larger limb. Think outside the box, problem solving. A lot of that stuff, if you get good at that, you can slim that kit down a lot.
yep. Yeah, that's kind of what Adventures with Ken said when he was in the Marine Corps. His um, combat lifesavers course. There isn't anything in a simple first aid kit that you can't improvise, and
Yeah,
that's what you just said. That's true. I mean, there's so much. I always wear a belt when I go out, because you can use belts for so many things. You can use it to hold gear onto your pack, or I mean, there's so many uses for cordage or belts, and
Yep.
uh,
Carry a
this,
bundle of firewood.
yep,
You can wrap that
firewood,
belt around it.
yep. I've used it to go around my wool blanket. I mean, there's just so many things you can use a belt for sure. TD Knives also said you can use borax on the ground for ticks, which that's true too.
Hmm.
I've heard that. Lye soap, carry lye soap with you too, and rub it on your shins and your arms. Lye soap works really well. Um, Trying to make sure I miss any questions. I'm sorry. I'm sure I have, but let's see here. Another question. This is one I wanted you to explain. This is really, I think, the best thing I've learned from your channel, and learned what it was and that you're so passionate about, is explain wild camp for our viewers. I mean, that is so amazing to me. I really enjoyed learning about that.
So, wild camp is something we started a couple of years ago, and it started out to be just it was going to be a subscriber camp out, but it kind of grew, even from the start, we had 50 tickets available. We got a small little venue, and we had, 20 or 30 people on a waiting list that wanted to go. And so we put this event together for people who have maybe never camped at all. The first 2 years, we helped people put their gear together for the very first time, never
Wow.
camped before. So that, to me, that was cool. We had
Yep.
people that never camped before. Then we have seasoned campers that have camped all the time, and it's nice to get these folks together because we try to keep the event more of a family type atmosphere.
Hmm.
We want to keep it small enough, instead of getting huge like a lot of these events do. We want to keep that family feel, where instead of clicking up in different places, we want everybody to be able to come together, mingle, meet new people. And we had some guys. Um, I kind of pride myself on this one. We had a guy that's a veteran who had told me, I have never even entertained the idea of coming to an event like this. I'm not
Wow.
exactly a people person, but he
Wow.
wanted to come to that event because he wanted to see if maybe he could meet some new friends that are like minded. And he has
Yep.
been camping with that group of people several times since we did the last wild camp. And that's something that is I'm very, very proud of. So that guy met some friends, and
Yep.
they have been camping together. And that's what the thing is all about for me. It's getting people involved, and getting the kids involved. So last year we had a few kids there. Um, or the first year, I meant we had a few kids there.
Uh,
Last year, I did a class for the kids called "What to Do If You Get Lost in the Woods," and I think I had 14 or 15 kids in that class,
wow.
and I gave them all whistles, which their parents were not exactly excited about. But it was they were good kids. They all pretty much all listened. I told them that that whistle is a tool. You're not running around here blowing that whistle, because if you do and you need help, nobody's going to come find you. So it was cool. We got the kids involved, and last year we went from having 50 at the first event to last year we had almost 150 people. And
Wow.
so this year, I don't know if we're going to want to try to go much more than 150 people. I think that
Yeah.
might be kind of our cap. But man, we have such a good time. We have the Friday night, or we actually do a super supporter night, which is Thursday night, and it's a small group of people.
Uh-huh.
And then we open the gates at 9 a.m. on Friday morning, and people can come, and we have classes throughout the day. Let's see. I think I've got I might have it in this book here, but last year we had, I don't remember exactly how many classes that we had, but we had a quick camp setup class. We had a tri-stick class, an axe sharpening class. I did a class I call foraging for fire. So I'll take
Oh,
people around and teach them how to find the kindling and tinder and flash tinder and how to find all your materials for your fire.
yeah.
Um, we had a water safety and treatment class, filtering water, how to make your water safe to drink. Last year was fun. We had the Mid Florida Bigfoot Research Group came and did a presentation for us, and we did a night hike with them, and they showed us how they go out and um, do the investigations and stuff, which was cool. Um, we had my wife did a uh, cold process soap making class, so she
Oh,
showed
wow.
people how to make soap at home. Um, Trying to think, we had a stop the bleed class last year. Intro to hammock camping. We had a guy come in last year because we do the all sorts of outdoor stuff, and
Uh-huh.
part of that is the kayaking and fishing. So we had a guy last year named Kyle Keene. He was I think it was the 2023 Bass Nations kayak angler of the year, and
Wow.
he came and taught a kayak bass fishing class. And so there was a young man there with him, or there was a young man at the event there, probably 14 years old, maybe. And he was hammering Kyle with questions. And so
Wow.
after the class, he pulled Kyle to the side and was nailing him again with questions. And Kyle asked the young man, he's like, "Well, did you bring a kayak with you?" And the kid said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Well, let's go talk to your parents." And he took that kid one on one on the lake and took him and taught him kayak bass fishing on the lake. And I actually got footage just by chance of that kid catching his second bass ever. And I
Wow.
don't know who was more excited, that kid or Kyle. Kyle was so excited he wanted to make sure the kid got a picture with it and stuff. It was awesome. So Wild
Yeah.
Camp is a labor of love for us. We put in a ton of effort into it,
Yep.
but it's just, it's about getting people involved, and like we put on different classes so people can learn new skills, and they can learn from people that actually know and can
Yep.
explain it to them and teach them stuff. We've got some people this year that's pretty cool. We've got a lady named Stephanie Beeson who is on this year's season of Naked and Afraid. She's going to
Uh-huh.
be there talking about her experience there. And then Dave Canterbury and the Pathfinder guys are going to be there, and
Really?
they're going to be teaching a few little classes there. Blackie Thomas is going to be there, and he's going to be teaching some classes with Fuel the Fire.
Awesome.
So we're going to have some really good instructors this year. So if you guys want to learn more about that, you can, we have a Wild Camp page on Facebook. You can
Yep.
follow that, and you kind of stay up to date on the information for that. But that's my sales pitch
Yep.
for Wild Camp.
Yeah, we'll definitely push it because I'm like I said, I mean, it's amazing that you guys are doing that, and like you say, there's so many opportunities for young and old, like you say. I mean, I'll definitely post a link to that Facebook page on the description,
Yeah,
and
cool.
obviously your channel and everything. So um, it's kind of why I wanted to end it with that because I that's just something. I mean, I love your channel. I love who you are. I love uh, what you stand for, and this was to me, this was just top notch. I mean, just like you said, for that young man to catch his second fish ever and get that, and having that nice of a guy to take
Yeah.
time to mentor that young man, and he'll never forget that the rest of his life.
No,
And like you said,
and he can go back and watch it on the video.
absolutely, absolutely, man, that is great. That's great. So, um, looks like that's pretty much all the questions. I know you're an hour ahead of us. It's probably what 10:30 there. So,
Yeah, 10:30.
um, I I really appreciate you coming on here, Shaun.
Yeah,
I
man.
really do.
I
And
appreciate you inviting me.
yeah, I'm not going to keep you a whole lot longer. I'll open it up to see if anybody else has any final questions here in the comment section here. If anybody has any more questions for Shaun, or if we didn't answer any questions, or if we missed something, or if
Yeah,
not,
and I'm one of those guys that if you have any questions, um, you can always, leave me a comment on the video. I do try to answer everything, if at all possible. But we have the ReWyld Outdoors Facebook page, and you can send me a message on there and I'll get back to you. So if you have any questions that we didn't cover, reach out to me there and I'll get back to you. I'm on Instagram also. I'm a social media butterfly.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you, Herbert. And if anybody gives a thumbs up, and if any of you guys aren't subscribed to ReWyld Outdoors, I appreciate you if you go give him a sub and support
Oh
his
yeah.
channel. Uh, Ken does have a final question. Do you like Peeps or not? I'm not a big fan of Peeps, LOL.
Well, I'm not really a big fan of the Peeps either. I think it's the sugar that is kind of gritty on the Peeps. Not really a
Yeah.
big fan.
I always like melting them. Like if doing s'mores, the kids and I would use them and melt them in
Mhm.
s'mores, and that gets rid of
I've
all that.
never thought of that.
Yeah, it really works good. And now you can get all the different flavors. They have Dr.
Yeah,
Pepper, they have watermelon, they have all these different flavors. And man, my kids
I might have to
really
try
love it
that.
now. Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
awesome. Well, I guess we'll hang it up here. I know it's getting late there for you, and I appreciate your
Yeah,
time. Thank you for you and your wife. I know it's just taking time out of your guys' evening, and I really appreciate you guys. And
yeah,
like
no
I
problem.
said, uh, all you guys go and subscribe and show him support, and check out Wild Camp too and see what that's
Yeah,
all about. I'll post those links in the description after this live. And
very
you
cool.
have a good week coming up.
Yep, you too, man. I appreciate you so much for having me on here. I
Yeah,
appreciate everybody for commenting and asking questions. So,
yeah, it kept it flowing good tonight, and it was really nice. I really appreciate it, and appreciate everybody. We love all of you guys, and we just thank you for stopping by tonight and giving us this time. Thank you, Shaun. I appreciate you
yeah.
very much.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Have
it.
a good night.
You too.
Bye.